Hello everyone, welcome to Edu Canteen. Today we are going to discuss about wildlife conservation. And for that discussion, today we have with us Dr. Oishimaya Sen Nag. Ma'am, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Shubhojit. It's a pleasure to be here.
So ma'am, we will start this session with your journey, with your please share your journey with us.
Okay, sure. So basically, my journey is a bit unconventional because initially I went through a very traditional way of education because I was interested in biology and I did my bachelor's and master's in biotechnology. And I did a PhD in biochemistry, where my research subject was Parkinson's disease. Okay. But all the while, I was always interested in animals, wildlife, and I used to write articles for different magazines, and I used to, write editorial letters to newspapers about the environmental issues. So while I was going through my education, I also started, writing. So after my PhD, when I was there in Canada, my husband was posted there, so I went there, and I was applying for postdoctoral opportunities. At the same time, I did not want to sit idle at home, so I started, applying for writing positions in different magazines where I could write about environment and wildlife. And I was lucky enough to, because of my previous writing experience and my scientific publications that happened during my PhD, I got an opportunity to write for a very reputed Canadian education website, World Atlas. So I became a writer there. So while I was writing for them, I was applying also for postdoc. And it happened in 2016 that I got a postdoctoral opportunity in the US in a very reputed lab there. At the same time, I got a promotion from the writer to the editorial position at World Atlas. And it was a dilemma for me because, it's one is like your career that you have studied, and this is a totally new path for you where you have very little experience. And but at the time, I just listened to my heart because I understood that I want to learn about the world. I want to learn about environment, wildlife, and I want to make a difference to it. And my research field, I did love it when I was working on it, but I understood that this is my new passion and this is what I want to follow in the future. So at that time, it was a difficult decision for me, but I did make that decision. I do not regret it to this day. And today I travel across the length and breadth of India. I collect stories on wildlife conservation, how the people and wildlife are living together, and I publish it for different magazines. I also work for World Atlas. And I'm very, very happy with what I'm doing right now.
Oh,
Yeah, so this is
great.
kind of my story in brief. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, great journey. So, ma'am, from this continuation of these things, so you have around 8 years of experience. So from that experience of as an author, so please share some story, some experience from that part with us.
Yeah, sure. Like, as I said, I have traveled across India. I've traveled across many national parks, and I've interacted with a lot of communities that live in India. And I found that there's magic here, and I will explain how. So I went to Rajasthan. There's a Chandela village there, and there you have the Bishnoi people living. So Bishnoi is a community of people who follow Bishnoism, which is a kind of a sect, a subsect of Hinduism. These people believe that you should save trees and animals, should never harm them. So there I met a lady called Kiran Bishnoi, and she narrated her story, which I'm going to tell you in brief, which will help us understand the connection between wildlife and humans in India. So Kiran was out in the field one day, and she was tending to the crops. And then she was married at the time. She was having a big kid, and then she had a small 8-month-old daughter. While she was out in the field, she saw a pack of dogs chasing a female, a pregnant black buck. And what happened is in that tension, that hurry, the black buck gave birth to a baby, and the black buck managed to run away. But the dogs were just about to attack the baby. So Kiran immediately went and shoot away the dogs and brought the baby home. And the mother was gone by that time, so she did not know how to tend to this, innocent, black buck, and it was just a newborn totally. And they tried feeding, cow milk, goat milk, and everything to that calf. And the calf did not respond; it would have died. At that time, her husband told her that you have a daughter of yourself. Why don't you try breastfeeding the calf? And then she did that. And the calf responded. And the calf survived. And this story became famous all over the world. It was covered by BBC, it was covered by many top newspapers. So I got to meet this woman. And then I understood, like, kind of, the relation that Indians have with their wildlife. It might not be such extreme cases of compassion and sacrifices you see in the Bishnois, but still throughout India, if you travel to even Mumbai, it's like a busy city, but in the heart of Mumbai you have the Sanjay Gandhi National Park and you have the RM Mill colony, where you have people, like, where there's a very high density of human population there, but there also you have 40 wild leopards roaming around in the streets, and the people live with them. There are many places in India, many villages in India where people, day in, day out, they live with tigers and leopards and other predators. Like even in the Sundarbans of our West Bengal, you have the same example. So I would say, like India, we have been able to really conserve our wildlife well. And one of the biggest reasons is, in addition to our strong legal framework, is the culture of our people. We know how to live with wildlife. We don't treat them as outside our system. They are part of a system. That's because of our cultural values. And that is the most beautiful thing about India. And that is the reason, today we have the world's highest population of tigers, Asiatic lions, Asiatic elephants, one-horned rhinos, and many other species. So there is a lot of hope in India. That's what I would like to share. That's my observation till now.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot for sharing the story. That was very heart touching.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, yes.
So
Thank you.
now we will go to the career in wildlife. Like when we think about
Yeah.
career in wildlife, we mainly the two picture we came out my mind. One is wildlife photography, another one is field worker, like forest officer. Is there
Yes.
any
Yes.
other career option in wildlife?
Yes, absolutely, Shobhajit. Because wildlife photography, if you say it's a career, exactly just by clicking photographs, you cannot create a career, because today you have so many photographers, right? Photography has become so easy. Like if you have a mobile camera or a simple point and shoot camera, you can click away photographs and everybody is doing. So, and people are doing very good photography. So, photography is a way to make people fall in love with wildlife. But there are, once you become a very good photographer, you become efficient at it, and you become popular, then you can start photography classes, you can take people on photography tours. So that way you can say that is a profession. But just by clicking photos itself, it's difficult to make a profession out of it. And of course, as you say, the officers, the field officers, the wildlife officers, so that's another field, that's management field in wildlife, and there you have to give the competitive exams through which you come to that field. In addition to that, of course, there is a variety of fields through which you can contribute to wildlife conservation. So one of them is, again, another very traditional field is when you do your bachelor's and master's and or your PhD, in the biological sciences, especially zoology, botany, environmental science, these kind of related subjects. And then you start, you get recruited to the universities and the academic institutions where you start working as an academician or a scientific researcher. So that's a wildlife biologist job. That's one field. Then along with that, like, if you are very knowledgeable about wildlife, if you know the plants and the animals well, know the scientific names, you can identify well, you can become a naturalist. And you also have naturalist training programs available, and many naturalists are recruited into the tourism industry, to make people aware about the local flora and fauna of the region where they are working. So naturalist is another field. Then, in wildlife conservation is a field where it's a multidisciplinary field. So we need people from different fields to contribute. I'll just give you some examples. So there are artists and musicians in wildlife, there's a graphic designers. So they are creating, with the help of the creativity, they're creating music, they're creating posters and pamphlets and all, with using the creativity to create awareness among the masses. There are cartoonists who are creating wildlife cartoons, and through cartoons people are becoming aware of what is happening. Then you have, of course, the writers, the journalists, the environmental journalists are there, so that's another section of the profession. Then you have lawyers, like people I mean, you need people to fight on behalf of wildlife, on behalf of environment. So there are environmental lawyers. So they get trained in environmental law. They have to learn about the legal systems that exist, and then they can fight for the justice for the environment. Then you have, you have many other fields. Even psychologists, are needed in wildlife, because you have to study human wildlife interactions. And there, you have to study the human mind, how they perceive wildlife. So for that, you need psychologists to study, and then you can modify the behavior of people towards wildlife. So this way, you can actually incorporate, or even you need veterinarians, even you need human doctors, like, because you have to study zoonotic diseases, that diseases can transfer from wildlife to humans and livestock. So for that, you need veterinarians, you need doctors. So people from every field can actually, even software people, professionals can contribute, because we need software for wildlife monitoring, population monitoring, for wildlife behavior studies. We need different kinds of software. So you see, in if you have the passion for contributing towards the cause of wildlife, saving wildlife in the future, saving the environment, you can use your own education in some way or the other. You have to find out the channel through which you can use this education, and then you can start contributing. At any stage of your profession, you can start contributing, actually.
Great point. And one thing
Yeah.
you mentioned, that the interdisciplinary thing. So from that point
Yes.
of view, like you
Yeah.
did a PhD in biochemistry, and from that you
Yeah.
shifted to wildlife conservation. So one thing, like you
Yeah.
already mentioned, that from many field anyone can shift to that journey.
Yes.
And is that PhD
Yes.
necessary?
No, not a PhD is not necessary. A PhD is helpful if you really want to go in. I mean, if you want a specific knowledge, if you're very much, into something specific, you want to deal with, suppose you want to just work on a species, on the conservation of the species, you want to go do the scientific laboratory work, or you want to do the behavioral studies, then a research background is very much necessary. It would be very helpful, actually. A research background is helpful when you're doing the scientific studies and all. Other than that, you can come from different fields. PhD is not necessary to work for wildlife conservation, but depends on what you want to do, where a PhD might be helpful if you're doing some scientific research or academic research. So for that, PhD is definitely helpful.
Ma'am, if one thing I want to know, like from you did PhD in biochemistry, so for how that background help you in here in wildlife
Yes.
conservation?
Yeah. So thing is, like education or knowledge, when you gain it, it will always be helpful to you at some stage or the other in your life. In some way or the other, you will be able to apply it. And for me, the PhD, although it was in a very different subject, it's a medical research science subject, Parkinson's disease, right? But PhD is not just about that. PhD teaches you a lot of other things. It teaches you hard work, it teaches you patience. And for me, most importantly, it taught me how to do research. It taught me got to learn scientific terms, scientific words. I got to interpret scientific papers. So today, when I'm acting as a science communicator, where I'm acting as a bridge between the wildlife scientists and the common people, and writing articles based on their papers, and I'm reaching out to the public with those articles. So that way, my scientific knowledge is helping me understand those scientific publications, and then write them in an easier manner to reach out to the public. So that way, PhD has taught me a lot. It's also taught me to organize conferences, interact with people, network with people. So all that is useful right now in the field of wildlife.
Okay, so we got a fair idea about that. Now,
Yeah.
if someone want to pursue their career in wildlife, so
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
are the course, what are the forum they have, and is there any
Yeah.
proper degree program they can pursue? They can do that.
Absolutely. See, yeah, so there are, as I mentioned, there are traditional ways of going into wildlife conservation, and others like me, like, just jumping in careers, or, coming in from somewhere else. So traditionally, if you see, there is this ability to become a wildlife biologist, and also for that, you need to do your master's or bachelor's or master's in the wildlife sciences or related subjects, zoology, botany, environmental science. So you go through the traditional way, maybe do a PhD, and then you get into scientific research, academic research. For that, you have got some very good courses available at the NCBS Bangalore. They offer a very good course in biology and conservation. That's the National Center for Biological Sciences in Bangalore. And also you have the Wildlife Institute of India in Dehradun. They also offer. So these courses are very, very prestigious courses in the field of wildlife. Other than that, if you do online search, you will find number of universities across India. Not too many, maybe because wildlife science is still, it's growing. So, but you still will find some courses where you can do proper master's courses or research, in the field of zoological sciences, botanical sciences, environmental sciences, and then get into research. So that's one of the ways. If you want to get into management, you want to become a forest officer, then you have to do your graduation, and then you have to prepare for the competitive exams. There's the Indian Forestry Service exam, the UPC exam. So you have to give those exams, clear them, and then you can get into the management part. So you'll be in the managerial, the sections of the national parks and the other protected areas of India. So that way you can also enter the field. Other than that, for people like me, who have gone into some other profession and you want to come back into wildlife conservation, you have a lot of, you don't have the time always to go again back to studies, go back and do a master's, go back and do a PhD. You don't have the time for that. You have a lot of online courses available, a lot of certificates, short-term courses. Like Bombay Natural History Society, it offers some very good courses that, they conduct over the weekends and through webinars. And then they host some field camps where you can actually go and learn from experts in the field. They have courses on herpetology, ornithology, wildlife conservation. So these kind of short courses you can do. And again, if you also you can volunteer or intern with the organizations like the NGOs that are working in the field of wildlife. So you can volunteer with these NGOs and start, working with them and learning about wildlife. So these are the various ways you can enter. NGOs are also, like, there are lots of NGOs operating in India, and in the field of wildlife conservation, some of the best ones are Wildlife Conservation Trust. Then there is WWF. There is Wildlife Institute, WTI. So these are some of the very good NGOs that are working in the field of wildlife conservation in India. You can try, applying for internship or volunteership in these NGOs, where you can start learning about, develop your skills there. So you can do that also.
Okay. Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I want to know, like you already mentioned, again, I want to put emphasis on that. Like, being a science background, I saw many students who have arts background in their HS higher secondary, but if they want to pursue their career being in a arts background, is that possible to pursue career in wildlife conservation?
Yes, sure. It is possible. As I mentioned, disciplinary subject, and people from arts, they can start, contribute in writing. We need writers, we need journalists, we need artists, then we need geography knowledge, we need geologists. So the people from other kinds of fields, like arts fields, with the knowledge of literature, they can contribute. Everybody they can write stories, novels, make people fall in love with wildlife. So we have many wildlife magazines in India, like the Sanctuary Asia, Save Us, all these travel and environment. So these kind of magazines are there. You can write for them. So people from arts background, yes, they can contribute. Then even we need people from sociology field, because we have to deal with the human wildlife interactions and the local communities. We need people, teachers for those local communities, right? We need to provide them with alternative livelihood options. So all that, we need people, and people from different backgrounds can come in and help contribute. So it doesn't have to be necessarily science. It can be commerce. We need accountants. The NGOs need accountants to work for them. So we need people from commerce background, from arts background, from science background. Everybody can contribute. You should have the passion for that. You should develop the skills for that, and you can contribute.
Okay. Now you are talking about the contribution. So from that point of view, I want to go to earning money. So if someone has, irrespective of their field, if someone has interest in environmental science, if someone is interested in wildlife conservation, and he or she want to contribute and parallelly want to earn some money. So what are the forum or magazine, how they can earn money?
Yeah. So see, earning money is when it becomes your profession, you're definitely earning money from it. So of course, like you are a scientific researcher, you're earning money from it. Now, it depends on what you are doing for wildlife, right? So if you're working for an NGO and you're just starting out, you don't have the skills, you don't have the education, then you will have to start out from a very basic salary, and then with your skills, with your passion, with your contribution towards the field, you will grow gradually. So initially the amount of earning in the field will depend upon your skills, depend upon your education, depend upon your experience, and how good you are at it, right? So like every field, you have to be good in the field of wildlife conservation. But yes, it is, the funding here is lower, often than in other fields. Even in the research case, the funding is lower than in case of human health, right? The research in human health has greater funding. So you must keep that in mind. You must bear and have enough patience to bear with the initial years of struggle, and then you can definitely start earning well. You can go at par with other professionals in terms of earning, but you have to have that patience, you have to have put in that hard work and develop your skills, have novelty in your work, and then you can definitely shine. So earning money, but I think more than earning money is definitely important. But along with that, wildlife conservation gives you a kind of satisfaction that many other jobs might not. People in wildlife conservation are very happy because they know they are contributing, towards a cause that is benefiting not just the wild animals. They are saving lives of wild animals, they're saving lives of humans as well, because the people living along with them, it's the environment they are saving, right? So the oxygen, the water, the clean food that we need, so everything they are ensuring, their work is ensuring that. So that satisfaction is also very, very important to have, which you get in this field.
So
Yeah.
to go to the final question, before that, I want to know about your activities. Now, I just know that you just started a one activities in India also. So can you just share some story about that?
Activity, I mean, I'm writing articles basically, and I've also started, I'm also helping wildlife organization in Nepal to in their communication sector. And in India, like I'm traveling a lot, and I'm traveling to the different national parks, to the, as I mentioned, to I'm interacting with the people and the communities, and I'm trying to bring those stories back home, and so that I can transmit these stories to the population, to the people who are not aware of this. Another interesting story in this regard I can tell you about Sundarbans. So I went to the Sundarbans, and the people there, they are living in Sundarbans. The tigers, they are very different from other places in the world. Actually, the tigers in Sundarbans are known to actually prey on humans. And the other places, tiger attacks do happen, but it's not like the tigers are constantly praying. But in Sundarbans, a lot of deaths happen. So there I met a very aged man, around 80-year-old, and he was sipping his hookah and sitting in his home. And I started talking with him. I said, grandfather, you have lost a lot of family and friends, which he has over the years, to tigers. They went either to fish or they went to collect crabs in the forest, and they got attacked by a tiger and eaten up. So I said that, do you still have, so you must be very angry, at the tigers. You must want them to eliminate them. So he said, no, daughter. I mean, he said, ma, no, daughter, means daughter, kind of say, it is not so. So think about this. Suppose I am here in my home. He was saying, like, I am here in my home, and I leave my home just the next day, and I just go away from my home. Nobody is there in my home. So dacoits will come and loot my home. Similarly, if the tiger goes out to the Sundarbans forest will be cut down completely. We will lose the forest. And we, the people of the Sundarbans who depend on the forest, for our livelihoods, we will lose everything. So we worship the tiger as a god. We don't want the tigers to go. And so, this old man, he hasn't ever, learned also. I mean, education. He doesn't have any education, but he had this knowledge, of conservation, basic conservation. So this is the knowledge that the local communities have. And I think there's a lot of untapped, this knowledge throughout India, which we actually can need to discover, and which will actually help us in, furthering our conservation goals. So throughout India, I think many communities are there like this. They're living day in and day out with wild animals, they have a lot of knowledge which we definitely need to know. So that is what I am trying to do now. I'm trying to discover this knowledge of the local communities with the help of my documentation, and then writing them down in the form of stories in different publications.
Great, great initiative.
Yeah,
Ma'am, being a woman doing PhD and then pursuing career, it's not easy, but I'm sure you face lots of challenges.
yeah,
And from that
yeah,
experience, I want to know that, just to wrap the session, from that experience, please share some tips for the girls who want to
yeah.
pursue their career.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think when you're doing something unconventional, something different, uh, it's whether you're a man or a woman, it's always difficult. But in societies where, like India, where you have a society that that promotes, like the patriarchy, so there, being a woman and doing something different is even more difficult. For men also it's difficult, but for women it's more difficult, especially in a field like wildlife conservation, where you need to travel out of your home. You cannot do it sitting in your home. You cannot collect stories sitting in your home. You have to move out. You have to have that. So I think while doing that, society will always try to put you into their mold, what they believe is right. So, and but if you want to do something outside it, you definitely have to be very focused. I would say number one thing is be very focused, and don't let things bother you. I mean, there will be a lot of noise around you, but you keep your goals intact. Okay. Second is having patience, which is very, very important, because you might not be immediately able to do things you want to do, because people have financial constraints, people have family issues, family don't support. So it's not that always you can do whatever you want. But remember that in wildlife conservation, if you have the passion, if you have the will, you can enter at a later stage in your life also. So have the patience and hope. Third, I would say that be in touch. Be in touch with, like maybe you're doing something else, you're not able to be in the field of your that you prefer to be, whether it's wildlife conservation or any other field. Be in touch with the field. Today, social media is a very good way of networking. So I used social media to network with people in this field, and that really helped me a lot. So use social media to network with people in the field, and keep reading articles to be updated about what is happening in the field that you want to work in. So these are things, patience. And another thing is very important is, if you have a mentor in the field, which I luckily had. My mentor is Dr. Anish Andheria. He is one of India's most famous conservationists, and you need. I mean, he kinds of when you're not don't have a formal education and all, but you don't know what you're doing, or whether what you're thinking is right or not. You should have somebody, an expert, to validate that. So try to find a figure that gives you inspiration, a personality that gives you inspiration. That person can guide you. So having a good mentor is also very, very important in life. And along with that, prepare yourself physically and mentally also. So you should be physically fit, at least basic fitness. Don't have to always go and run in the forest and do things, but a basic fitness level that will allow you to travel to different places, to do your work. Because wildlife conservation, sitting at home doing online research, very little, but you need to move. So you should have a level of basic fitness. So for that is also very important. So if you have all these things, and you have hope along with it, and you have a positive attitude towards life, whether you're a girl, whether you're a boy, you can always come into the field of wildlife conservation or any other field in that matter, if you have the determination to do it.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks
Yeah,
for your time, and it was a very, very insightful talk. I think it will be helpful many for many students. So
I
thanks
hope
again,
so.
thanks for your time.
You're most welcome. Shubhajit, thank you so much for your time as well. Thank you. It was a pleasure speaking with you.